Okay, so I was just saying that we're very, very lucky. We're very, very fortunate that we have an opportunity to spend this time together every night. It's really, mamash, it's a miracle. I know Rabbeinu is smiling at us right now, watching us do this. This is people coming together with the best intentions, really just looking to find Hashem and find themselves and to connect and to unite all the different fragments and pieces of our life, which often seem very broken. But in truth, there's good in all of it. And Rebbe Nachman, as the tzaddik, he's the binding agent. He is the one who takes the good from all of the brokenness, and he makes a song out of it for us. He spoke specifically about this. And I know it's hard to believe that, but if you don't give up and you continue every day to just do your best, and even if that looks like the worst day of your life, and it's a fall, and you feel broken, and you feel that you can't go on like this, I'm telling you, just don't give up, because the end is so sweet. And like the Tanya says, that there's a long, short road, and there is a short, long road. And many people try and take the short, long road. Most people try to take the short, long road. And that is that we're looking for the most comfortable way to grow and to become the person we always wanted to be. But then it ends up being a very long road to doing it. Many people who start learning Rebbe Nachman's teachings, their first experience is, wow, this is amazing. And I see that this can bring me a lot of happiness, but this is really hard. It's hard to talk to Hashem every day. It's hard to go out into the wilderness and the forest for an hour a day. It's hard to learn Torah at every moment that you can get, and not just Gemara or Halacha, but every piece of everything in the Torah. It's hard to not get angry. It's hard to have shalom bayit. And Rebbe Nachman is pushing us to do all of it. But the answer is what the Baal Tanya says, that there is a long, short road. That even though this road appears very long, it's actually quite short. But the main thing is that you get started and you get on the road. So for everyone here, kol kavod, I'm very, very proud of you. This is really amazing, really, really amazing what we're doing here. It's very special, and we're so lucky. I was just saying how Rav Kramer, he came to visit last year, and he came to speak to 10 people. I've spoken to Yossi Katz in the past, and he doesn't care where he goes. He wants to go to Las Vegas and speak to a few people over there who are interested in what is Rebbe Nachman in Breslov, even though they could probably get him hundreds of people in New York. But he doesn't care. He just wants to shine the light of the tzaddik to everybody. And it's really a tribute, not just to him, but that he's the product of Rebbe Nachman. We're all the product of Rebbe Nachman. And it's very clear that the students, according to Hasidus, you want to see what the Hasidic master is like, just look at his students. And you'll see the Rebbe. And there's nothing more real than this. There's nothing more authentic than this. There's nothing more genuine than this. And Bezrat Hashem, I hope we all get the opportunity to go to Uman as soon as possible, so you can see in real life that there's not just 10 of us or 20 of us. There's actually thousands and thousands of us that are scattered across the globe, these fallen sparks of godliness all over. And they come together. And I told people, I went there for the first time this year. I've been praying for years, ever since I started learning and applying Rebbe Nachman's teachings. Every day in my Hippolyte, Hashem, help me to get to Uman, help me to get to Uman, help me to get to Uman. And finally getting to go and to see the people there. It was like, when I came back, I said, this has to be like Geula, just like in a much bigger way. That the whole Jewish world is going to be doing that in Yerushalayim, what all the Breslovers do in Uman on Rosh Hashanah. That's really what it felt like for me. I'm not like trying to sell anything. I'm not trying to make money. I'm just bearing my heart to you, okay? I've been through too much in my life to care about anything else besides the well-being of my family and of the Jewish people. And suffering is actually really good. It really humbles you, and it really makes you very beautiful. It's hard to see it when you go through it, but you just got to keep going. The main thing is just to keep going, okay? So now, we're in the middle of the very first Torah of Likutey Moharan, just getting started, but it's such a fundamental piece of Torah. It's so special, it's so beautiful, it's so practical. You can live your whole life just according to this one piece, and I mean that. So what is Rebbe Nachman saying here? We'll do a quick recap, and then we're going to move on to new material. So he says like this: why don't we get our prayers answered? The answer is that there is a lack of truth in what we're saying. What is the truth that Rabbi Nachman is speaking about? It's called Chokhmah. Chokhmah, which translates as wisdom, is really what is the inner godly reality. Whenever you can locate and pinpoint and recognize and connect to the inner reality, that is called attaching yourself and experiencing the Chokhmah of Hashem, the wisdom of Hashem. And like it says, Hashem created everything, the Chokhmah. So we usually think that means that the Torah is teaching us that Hashem made everything with wisdom. Okay, that's great, wonderful. The God of the universe who created everything and everything is a part of him, he did everything with some level of intelligence. That's an amazing teaching, of course. But now Rabbi Nachman is teaching us, what does that really mean? It means that within every single thing that Hashem created, there is an external reality that we see, that's very easy to see, and it's very easy to connect to and invest in. But it's not real, or at least it's not really real. And then beneath that, you have an inner reality, which is called Chokhmah. That is the light of Hashem, which is giving life force to every person, to every creation, to every experience. That is the inner reality. Rav Nachman says you have a chiyuv as a Jew. Every single Ish Yisraeli, every single Jewish man, Tamid, constantly needs to be searching for the inner reality of everything in his life. I go eat food. I'm not eating only to sustain myself. That is called connecting to the external aspect of that experience, and that's the cause of all suffering. Again, this is not because of punishments. It's not because Hashem is angry at you. It's because we're cutting ourselves off from the life force of the experience. Like, for instance, I just ate chicken. It's very easy to eat that chicken, especially when my wife makes it. It's very good, Baruch Hashem, to just enjoy the chicken and to just sit in that enjoyment. Or you can realize, like Rebbe Nachman teaches elsewhere, you can get to a point and you realize Hashem is everywhere. Hashem is in your chicken. Hashem is in everything. Now you can just taste the chicken and it's going to taste good for a few seconds. And then you're going to get full, and then you're going to get tired, and then you're going to have to take a sleep. Or Rav Nachman says there is a whole inner reality inside that chicken. That if you take a moment before you start eating and you say to Hashem, Hashem, I know that your life force is giving birth to this chicken in front of me. That there is godliness within this thing I'm about to eat. I want to experience you through the chicken I'm about to eat. I know this sounds crazy, or I don't know what it sounds like, but I'm telling you, this is how Rebbe Nachman is training us to experience life, because this is what it says to be Jewish. It's not to be a chassid. He says every Jew, this is what we're here for. We have an ability to find Hashem through everything. Rav Nachman says you can get so good at this that you might think to yourself, maybe I should just stop learning Torah because I can just do it in my normal, regular life. That you could get to such a level that within your relationships, within your work, you can always find the Chokhmah, and you're always seeing God and experiencing Him in a newer, greater way and connecting to that you might say to yourself, why do I even need to learn them? Because it's out here also. Just to show you what type of level that Rabbi Nachman is trying to get us to. You can do this. I ate the chicken, and instead of following my instinct, which we call the Yetzer Hara, or we call Esav in this Torah, I tried to be like Yaakov. I tried to be a Jew. What does it mean to be a Jew? It means to look for Hashem in that chicken. To think to yourself that the taste, the pleasure I'm getting is not physical. The pleasure I'm getting is godliness. What's left over, which is digested in your body and then comes out as excess, is the outside external physical reality. So what you did is you enjoyed God and you got rid of the rest. But what happens is when we focus only on the external part, meaning that we're not bringing the pleasure back up to Hashem and understanding that the pleasure I'm experiencing physically and psychologically and spiritually is really just the light of Hashem, which is permeating me. That's the pleasure. It's just hidden within the chicken. So what happens is I associate it with the chicken. And then I am not looking at the Chokhmah anymore. I am stuck on the outside. And then I don't get life force, not physically, not spiritually. That's why you're getting tired after you eat. That's why you're eating more than you need, because we are naturally trapped on the outside. Rebbe Nachman, everything that he's doing is trying to get us to connect to the inner reality, because once you connect to the inner reality, then you can actually safely and enjoyably partake of the outside, of the external as well. And that's the ultimate goal. It's not to separate yourself from the physical world. The Judaism and the Torah wants you to be a normal, functioning, healthy person in society who's contributing in all areas of your life. However, to do that, you first have to go inside. Then once you go inside, you can go back outside and lift the whole thing up. We see this very clearly with Abraham, where Hashem said to Abraham, you need to first leave behind everything that you're accustomed to, where you grew up, your family, your parents' home. These are all states of consciousness. Everything that you learned about what life is, that's not the inner reality. Lech lecha, go to yourself. Go to the peace of God inside of yourself. That's inside everything. Taste that. Enjoy that. And when you go there, which is called the land of Israel, now you can go back out and you can lift up your family's home, and you can lift up your own country, and you can lift the whole thing up. This is called seeing the inner Chokhmah. But now Rav Nachman, he puts a twist, and it's a very important twist. Very important twist. Because this light, the reason it's hidden is not because it's hidden. The reason it's hidden is because it's so strong, it's so intense that it's incapable for a human being to experience it in this physical world as it is. The reason why you don't see Hashem in your food is not because it's not obvious. It's not because it's not palpable. It's not because it's not so present. It's because it's so intense that your eyes can't perceive it. It's like, for instance, they say in science, there was a theory that the reason why it looks dark outside at nighttime is not because it's dark, but because the light is so intense at night that it looks dark to us. It could be in the end, we find out that nighttime is really daytime as well, like it is for Hashem, like it says. But for us, it's too intense, the difficulties, the darkness, and therefore we experience it as nighttime. However, Rav Nachman is saying that the ability to be able to experience this great hidden light, which is hidden because it's so great and so strong, is to become a vessel for it. How do you become a vessel for it? How do you experience Hashem's infinite light within your relationships, within yourself, at your workplace, in everything, in the Torah that you learn, in the prayers that you have, whatever you're doing? How do you experience that light? We need that light. Rav Nachman says that's the whole point of you being here, is to experience it. So he says you need to go and do the complete opposite to experience it. Don't be like the Chokhmah, be like the moon. The Chokhmah, Rav Nachman says, like the sun. The sun, which gives life to everything, the sun can't give to another sun. If a sun is giving light to another sun, that sun doesn't receive anything from it. What's the only thing in the physical world that receives from the sun, that reflects it, that constricts it to the level that it's able to experience only the good from the sun and to be able to give that over to others? That's the moon. Rav Nachman is teaching us the whole reason Hashem created a sun and a moon is to teach us this first Torah in Likutey Moharan. Think about what I just said to you. The whole reason Hashem created a sun and a moon in the galaxy is for us to understand this first Torah in Likutey Moharan. That Hashem has a chokhmah in everything. He has an inner godliness in everything that's like the sun. You can't look directly at the sun. You need sunglasses. What are the sunglasses you need? Not Ray-Bans, Nachmans, okay? And those sunglasses are called amuna lenses. It's called the letter Nun. that as opposed to the sun, or as opposed to the chokhmah, this inner light, what do you compare to the letter chet, which comes from the word chiyut, life force, like the sun, you have to be the thing that perfectly reflects and holds that light and gives it off. That's called the moon. But the Zohar has the twist that even though the moon looks like it's giving off a beautiful light when it's full, that light is not its own. It's the light of the sun. It is merely reflecting that light. It's experiencing that light because it's a vessel for that light. And then it's able to give off that beautiful light. What makes it a vessel for that light? What makes you a vessel to experience the light of the Ein Sof in everything in your life? The answer is when you make yourself like the moon, which the Zohar says it has nothing of its own. Meaning when you completely empty yourself of yourself, you'll experience Hashem. Now, while that might not sound like any goal that anybody wants to attain, why would I want to lose myself? And the answer is because the self that we have invested and associated ourselves with our whole life is not really us. That is our Yetzer Hara. That is our ego. That is the thing that's called Yesh, isness. Okay? But you have something within you which is much deeper than that, which is truly your inner self, which is the part of you that you've been yearning since birth to connect to, and you don't know where it is, and you don't know how to do it, and you don't know how to find that place, but you know that it's somewhere. And even if you never thought about it, you feel that it's somewhere. Everybody feels that there's something inside of us. There's something somewhere that's more real than what I've experienced. That is called your real self. That is called ayin, the keter, no thingness. No thingness. Doesn't mean you're nothing. It means you're no thing. You're not a thing. You are a piece of God. You are a piece of the infinite light of the Ein Sof, the creator of existence. But the only way to experience that is to nullify your superficial self. Now, we might think, when you listen to New Age psychology, that means I need to work on not being selfish. And yeah, that's an external part of the ego. But the deepest part of the ego is the one that tells you that something is happening and it's not Hashem's doing. It's very subtle. But every single time that you experience anything in your life, and at that moment you think that is not Hashem's direct, active will at that moment, that means that you are connected to your ego. Because what does ego mean? Even though we use it in common parlance or vernacular as selfishness, it really means self. What is self? Self means I exist as separate from something else. Ego means I have an existence in and of myself. You don't. You do not exist in and of yourself. You don't even want to exist in and of yourself. The whole reason why we experience sadness and anger and confusion is because we do not want to be alone. We want to be connected. We want to be in Uman. We want to be in Yerushalayim. We want to be part of the Jewish people. Everybody wants to feel that unity. That unity can't happen when we're all ourselves. I give this mashal, I used to go to a lot of concerts. You'll notice that if you have people all day working and toiling to try and further their career, to try and further themselves, not coming from a bad place, because this is what America teaches. This is what there is. This is the life. You are able to become whatever you want to be, at exclusion to everyone else. Capitalism. Okay? By the way, I hope the government is listening to that. So anyway, however, then let's say at nighttime, you go with your friends to a concert. You go to that concert, and that concert is the best day of your whole year. Why? You think because the music's awesome. Maybe you think it's because of the thing that your friend brought with you to enjoy the music. But the real reason you're enjoying that concert so much is because you and a group of people with the same love, with the same passion, with the same interest, have all attained bitul together, self-nullification. That at that moment that you're all singing together with the singer, with the orchestrator, with the musician, You're all part of one collective harmony, and nobody there is angry about it. Nobody's sad about it. Nobody's saying to themselves, oh man, I wish I could assert myself right now. No, you're melting away in the unity, in the love, in the connection, in the music. And this is just scratching the surface of what the Torah is trying to give us. Hashem wants to give us that on acid, literally. He wants us to all be so connected, so attached, so one. And when you're there, even though you think, well, I don't want to be nullified, but you do. Because when you go to the concert, that's the best time in your life. Hashem wants us to always be in this concert called the oneness of Hashem. And when you're there, you're not going to say, oh man, I wish I had myself back. You're going to say, I'm more myself now than I've ever been. This is what I've always been looking for. To be able to do that, you have to experience the nun. The nun has nothing of its own. It is the moon. This is called your Yetzer Tov. We often think to ourselves, what is Yetzer Tov? Yetzer Tov is, oh, I have a good inclination. What does that mean? Rabbi Nachman says your good inclination is the one that stops separating yourself from reality. Stop doing that. Stop thinking about yourself in a vacuum. Stop thinking that you exist in and of yourself. You're not alone. You're connected to every soul of everything that exists in creation. Everything is dependent on you. You're dependent on everything else. And Hashem is the one who's running the show. And that's amazing. That's beautiful. Let yourself melt yourself away in that thing. That's called the nun. That as soon as you experience something, whether it's good or whether it's seemingly bad, bring it back to Hashem. And as soon as you do that, you're experiencing your Yetzer Tov. Because your Yetzer Tov is called the moon. The reason why the Jewish people are called the moon in the Midrash is because we are the Yetzer Tov of existence. That within the whole world, the Jewish people are the Yetzer Tov of the world. So when we are all doing this thing that we were given the ability to do, which is to nullify our egos and connect together as one, then as a result of that, we are able to bring the whole world close to Hashem. This is the Yetzer Tov. The Yetzer Tov is not simply, I want to go do a good thing for this old woman crossing the street. You experience that because you're in some level of self-nullification. However, real Yetzer Tov, what does it mean at every moment? How do I connect back to my source? I do that right now by emptying myself of myself. And then I can experience everything I've always been looking for, okay? Now, Rebbe Nachman says, what if you don't do this? What happens if you do not actively try and become like the moon? That you allow yourself to be as you just naturally are. Then Rebbe Nachman says the Jew is not like Yaakov, and he's not like David HaMelech. He's actually like Esav. Have you ever seen the Torah and how it speaks about Esav? There is not more vehement, more negative description of a person in the Torah than Esav. They call him Esav Harasha in the Gemara. He's called the Rasha, the worst thing that exists in the world. And Rabbi Nachman is saying Esav is not exclusive for the non-Jewish world. You have Esav inside of you if you don't work on this. The reason why you experience sadness and anger and confusion is because you are not nullifying Esav. Esav is your external self that wants to be separate, that doesn't want to connect to anything deeper. That's what we did so far. Now, Rabbi Nachman says, "V'tzarich kol echad litin koach livchinat malchut dekedusha yikaber al malchut asitra achra." With that being said, now the question is, what gives me the best shot to access the nun? What gives me the best chance to actually do this? This sounds great. I would love to be egoless. I would love to melt away in the unity of Hashem. Now, how do you do that? So Rebbe Nachman is going to bring the answer. The solution is like this. You need to be proactive. You cannot be responsive in this. You have to be proactive. What do you have to be proactive in doing? You need to give strength to your moon You need to give strength to your Yetzer Tov. You need to give strength to the part of you that wants to experience the light of Hashem. We're going to see in a second how you do that. But we're saying like this, very simply. How do you long-term actually get to the point where your constant mode of existence is not ego and having to nullify it, but that you're able to be tapped in even before the experience? And the answer is you need to be proactive in building this part of yourself. Notice another part of the physical creation of the sun and the moon. The sun is always steady. The sun always looks the same every single day. The sun represents the light of the Ein Sof. Like Hashem says, I don't change. I'm just as much present in everything and everyone all the time. I don't change. What changes? The moon. The moon waxes and it wanes. 15 days it waxes, and for 15 days it wanes. Why did Hashem make the moon wax and wane? We understand now that the moon represents your Yetzer Tov, that when you look up at the moon, you actually should think to yourself, this is the Yetzer Tov. Everything about the moon is just like the part of me that's going to allow me to be close to Hashem and receive the light of Hashem from the sun. In fact, I heard Rabbi Ginsburg say that it's explained in Chassidut that face that you see on the moon, by the way, a lot of people, they say, like, I see like a face on the moon. Everybody, not just Jews, everyone has this own idea, but that there is a face in the moon. I've seen it in my own life. Looks like eyes and a smile. Whenever you want, you can check it out. I never knew this. I just found this out. Rav Ginsburg says that the Torah says, Chassidut explains, Kabbalah explains, the face that you see on the moon is Yaakov Avinu's face. And what does Rebbe Nachman teach us? That Yaakov represents the Yetzer Tov. It's unbelievable. Somebody just told me I keep getting cut off. Do I actually keep getting cut off, or is it just this person's phone? Not getting cut off. Okay, good. So like this. What do you need to do? You need to build the moon. It takes time to accomplish this. You're not going to be able to nullify your ego in one moment. You're not going to be able to nullify the Esav within you in one day. Like the moon, it waxes and it wanes. You're going to have days that you're going to be better at this. You're going to have days that you're actually better than that, but it feels like you're doing worse. Because Rav Nachman explains that every single time that you make a step up, you have to fall first. In Chassidut, this is a very, very famous concept. It's based on Kabbalah. The Baal Shem Tov made this very famous. Rebbe Nachman speaks about it constantly. All the Hasidic masters speak about it. The concept of falling for the sake of rising. That when you fall, you never just fall. Hashem doesn't just allow you to fall. The fall itself is for the sake of rising. It's like, let's say you want to climb up a ladder. You're trying to move up to the next rung. So the only way to get up to the next rung is to put pressure first down on your feet, to bend down a little bit, and then to push yourself up. So that means, though, in order to get to the next rung, you first have to drop down a little bit. That's what gives you the power to actually get to the next place. So the Baal Shem Tov and Rabbi Nachman are teaching us, this is your whole life like this. Whenever you feel that you're falling, even though you're trying, it means that you're actually going down for the sake of going up. And if things are going good, or they seem like they're going good, we'll speak about that in a moment, okay? But in truth, when a person's really working on himself constantly every day, and he's toiling to try and experience and to attach himself to Rabbeinu's teachings, he's going to have ups and downs. It is impossible that you're really trying to do an Arabi Podadut, that you're trying to nullify your ego, and you're not falling every so often, okay? And that's okay. And in fact, the falling itself is only for the sake of going higher. So part of being the nun is recognizing that the moment that you fall, that's really because you're about to go higher. So you might think to yourself, okay, but like, let's say I forget about that. Let's say I just go through it. So why don't I just get to the next stage? The answer is like this, and this is a very important thing. You don't get to the next stage until you make yourself like the nun. That means, like, let's say, for instance, I'll give you an example. A couple nights ago, I taught a class, Sunday night, I think it was. We spoke about gratitude. We spoke about hope. That was an amazing class, a very powerful class. Anybody who hasn't heard it should go back and listen to it. It's on the BRI YouTube page. It's called How to Attain Inner Peace. Really, it was a powerful class, okay? After the class, I started to pray Arvit, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I started to feel sad. for no reason. Mamash, no reason. Everything is good. I had a great class. I prepared for it. Hashem helped me do it amazing. People gave me amazing feedback after. Everything was fine. And all of a sudden, I just experienced a wave of sadness. So in the past, I would have dwelled on that. I would have thought about, why am I sad right now? Why am I feeling this? And I would have invested in that feeling. However, Rav Nachman teaches that feeling is a sign you reached another level. You went to a higher level. Now you have to go back and experience the skeleton in your closet at that new level. There's Kabbalistic reasons for that. I'm not going to get into it right now because it's too complex. But simply put, that whenever you get to a new level, you have to go back to the beginning again. But when you go back to the beginning again, it's with a new consciousness, okay? So it's not the same like suffering that you went through 5 years ago when you go through it. It could actually be very quick and very peaceful. It's just that there has to be some level of a fall, no matter how subtle that is. So what did I do instead? I'm saying to myself, Hashem, I'm learning this Torah, Aleph. Rav Nachman says, live the Torah that you're learning, okay? We're learning this right now together. I said, Hashem, I know that just like that class was amazing, I didn't say anything. You taught that whole class. That was you. And the feedback I'm getting now, also you. That means that this wave of sadness I'm experiencing now is also you. It's all coming from the same exact place. That means that this is just as good as those things. So I said to Hashem, even though I don't feel good right now, instead of thinking about this feeling, I'm nullifying myself to you completely. I trust you, even though I don't understand why this is. What I'm going to do now, instead of doing what I used to do in the past when I felt sad, was to overeat and was to think about it for hours until I figured it out and never did. I'm going to go to sleep now, and I'm going to give it back to you. I laid down in my bed. I said, Hashem, I love you so much. Thank you for everything. The good and whatever seemed like it wasn't good. Right now, I feel weird. This is a weird feeling, but I trust that this is from you just like the others. And Hashem, all I want to do is be close to you. And I believe this is part of that process. Please tomorrow, help me to wake up tomorrow even stronger, with more energy, with more conviction, with more life force. For you, so I can connect more to you. I woke up the next day, I felt amazing. It was the best I felt in a long time. Now, in the past, I would dwell in that for hours, or for days, or for months, or for most of my life, it was years, and that was the reason for all the depressive episodes. Rav Nachman calls this sophistication, to sit and dwell on those experiences. Now, even though it doesn't sound sophisticated, it is according to the Torah. Why? Because you're trying to figure it out. That means that at a very subtle level, you're saying, I can figure out something which is above understanding. I could figure out something which is unlimited. You can't. And that's okay. That's great. So now Rebbe Nachman is teaching you not only how to respond so that you experience peace, so that you don't go down, so that you don't experience that down, that feeling for days or for months or for years, but that you're able to go through the fall and you're able to go up very high soon. Very soon. It could be as soon as the next moment. How do you do that? Make yourself like the moon. Remove your mind completely, because what's happening right now is above your understanding. And say to Hashem, Hashem, I'm giving it back to you, and I hope one day you give me the merit to understand why. The next day, I learned a piece in Likutey Moharan, and that piece was talking about a Yerida for the sake of an Aliyah. Literally exactly what I went through. That was the answer to my prayers. Not only that, I would never have been able to truly experience that Torah I read the next day unless I had that wave of sadness the night before and nullified myself and woke up the next day feeling great. Hashem is teaching you Torah all the time. He's not just teaching you Torah when you read a book. Everything in your life is called Torah. Everything. By the way, you should know I had a chidush. I wouldn't tell you this unless I really thought it was emet la'amito, unless I thought it was true, because I don't think much of my chidushim, but I think this one's good. So, Rav Nachman has a seder of learning that's different than everybody else. What does Rav Nachman say? When you go into a traditional yeshiva, let's say, and they teach you to learn a piece in the Gemara, They're going to teach you to learn a glot. Learn this piece cold. Keep going over it and over it and over it and over it until you understand it. And what happens? You could be doing that piece for a day, for weeks, for months, maybe even years, and never actually understand it. But you never actually moved on to any other piece of the Torah. You're still stuck here, and you feel terrible about yourself because you didn't get it no matter how hard you're trying. Rav Nachman says, when you learn Torah, don't learn like that. Don't learn like that. Just keep going. Continue to learn. You didn't understand? Okay, fine. It's not your responsibility to understand. That's Hashem's responsibility. If Hashem wants you to understand, you'll understand. And if He doesn't want you to understand, you won't understand. And even that's good. It means it's better you don't understand. And then eventually, Rav Nachman says that later on, you're going to read something in the Torah that's going to make you understand what you didn't understand before. Rav Natan didn't learn like this before he met Rav Nachman. He used to do what everybody else does, steig and steig and steig. And even when he was working so hard and according to the traditional Jewish stream, he was living the life, he was miserable. He wasn't happy learning like this. Rav Nachman says, even a little bit is good. And you just keep moving. Don't worry about it. I promise you, if you go forward, you're going to understand what you didn't do before. So what did Rav Natan do? Like the moon to Rebbe Nachman's son, he just nullified himself completely. He said, you know what? This is above my understanding. I'm just going to do what Rav Nachman says. We'll see what happens. And he said, unbelievably, everything I didn't understand whenever I learned it, I understood it later in the Torah. I just kept learning. And then I ended up learning so much more. And not just in this piece, but all over the Torah. Rav Nachman doesn't say you should just learn Gemara. He says you should learn Gemara, you should learn Mishnah, you should learn Kabbalah, you should learn Zohar, you should learn Eitz Chaim, you should learn Reshit Chochmah. You should touch every piece of the Torah. How can we do that? How is that possible? The answer is stop being so arrogant. Stop thinking that you can understand anything. All understanding comes from Hashem. I'm not speaking down. This is my whole life. I was arrogant like this. I am arrogant like this. I'm working on it. I'm just telling you that it's not real. It's not real. Understanding is not coming from your brain. Have you ever seen a brain? It looks like a potato. It's a mush potato that's in your head. Your understanding is not coming from your brain. It's coming from Hashem. Now, this is the chidush. You ready? I realized I was learning Gemara, right? Which I don't particularly like doing yet. B'ezrat Hashem, one day I will. And I'm learning it, and I want to understand so badly the piece that I'm on, and I don't understand. And I'm not comfortable at all because I'm a perfectionist, not moving on. But I said, Hashem, I'm nullifying myself to Rabbeinu. He knows more than me. This is above my understanding. Just like an Alavi Bodadud saved my life, so too this advice of just to keep moving is coming from the same exact place. It must be just as good. So I forced myself to continue. 2 pages later, I got complete clarity on that piece 2 pages ago. And I had such a chap, such a chidush. Because the sages teach that the Torah is chayim, it's a life. So I realized that the way you learn Torah is the same way you experience your life. When things happen to you, are you sitting and dwelling on it, trying to understand it and not moving on until you do? Or you could do what Rebbe Nachman says. Just keep going. And a couple days from now, you're going to get the answer to what you didn't understand today. And it's the same thing when you learn. Rav Nachman's whole perspective of life was consistent, whether it's through learning or how you experience your wife or your kids or your job, your relationships. It's not about you obtaining understanding through your efforts of hishtadlut, of you, because what's really going on is a very subtle ego that we were taught by society, by TV, by media, by Western civilization, that you achieve what you work for. The Torah says this is not true. You do put hishtadlut in, and you need it to succeed, but what's the hishtadlut in? The hishtadlut is nullifying your hishtadlut. When you can get yourself to the point to say, Hashem, I feel very uncomfortable right now. I don't want to move on from this thing in my life, but I've tried this 100 times before. And every time I did, it led to terrible feelings that stayed with me the rest of the day. It hurt my relationships with my family and X, Y, and Z, and it goes on and on and on. Let me try something different. Yes, maybe it sounds crazy, Rebbe Nachman says, that I don't have to sit and dwell on everything. Let me try. Maybe there's a reason why breast lovers are so happy. Maybe there's a reason why they're able to go out to the field and talk to Hashem for hours a day, and their relationships with their wives are good, and their relationships with their families are beautiful, and they're feeling very connected to the universe. Maybe it's not just because they're all hippies. Maybe Rebbe Nachman truly has some very deep wisdom for all of us. So try it out. When you go through a moment in your life, or in your learning, or within yourself, when you have a negative experience or a fall, don't think about it for 1 second. Say to Hashem, just like I understand all the good things that I experienced yesterday or a week ago or a year ago was from you, this feeling is coming from the same exact place. It's just as good, except I don't understand it because it's beyond my understanding. Hashem, I'm giving it back to you. I'm saying thank you, even though I don't know why. And I ask you, Hashem, please help me to understand why one day. And just keep going with your life. There's some questions on the bottom. We'll answer them at the end of the class. Now, Rav Nachman saying, how do you get yourself to do this practically? You're not able to just do it. This is page 28. You need to overpower your ego by investing in constantly and proactively investing in your selflessness, your moonness, your amuna, your innermost self. How do you do that? It's clear, explicit in the very first Gemara in Masechet Brachot, where it says there, Le'olam yagiz adam yetzer tov al yetzer hara. Now, when you read this piece of Gemara, you say to yourself, okay, great, the sages are telling us you should always incite your yetzer tov over your yetzer hara. Okay, what does that mean? How do I do that? So if Nachman's teaching you, you know what your yetzer tov is? It's the part of you that has nothing of your own. You need to invest in that. You need to experience that part of you. That's your real self. How do you do that? By constantly inciting it against your yetzer hara. How do you do that? How do you invest in this part of yourself, the malchut, your kingship, your royalty, your innermost princeness, the part you always wanted to be? Ayadei Torah. So here's the answer when we go back to the beginning. How did Torah help you get your prayers answered? Because prayers that get answered require selflessness. They require humility. But the only way to get to that humility is through learning Torah. What type of Torah? Shehu osech b'koach. Oh, here we go. This is the ikar. You ready? How do you experience the moon within you, the Shekhinah within you, the part of you that's able to receive the light of Hashem in everything in your life? You have to learn Torah b'koach. What does b'koach mean? So multiple things. Rav Kramer brings a few different explanations. One of those explanations is you do it with energy, right? When you learn, you're not like this. But when you learn, sing. If you go into a Breslov yeshiva, you'll see they sing every piece that they're learning. And they sing the piece, and they do it with a smile on their face, and they do it with energy because they realize that this is a gift, and there's no reason they should be in the yeshiva right now learning Torah in a world that thinks this is completely insane. And yet I'm able to do this, and my wife's supporting me doing it, or she's not supporting me and I'm still doing it. Whatever your situation is. And he's saying, now do it b'koach. What does it mean to do b'koach? Do it with energy, with enthusiasm. That's one. Number two, what does b'koach mean? It means with a loud voice. There's a whole question, according to halakha, whether you're even considered to be learning Torah, the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, if that's even the mitzvah, if you don't say the words out loud in a voice you can hear. Now, that's not how we paskin, but that's a very interesting discussion. The fact that the sages even have to have a havamina, a discussion about, is it learning Torah if you're not doing it in a loud voice? That's very interesting. Now, Rav Nachman's teaching us is a much more deeper mystical insight into what is the halachic discourse they're having, which is that the only thing that breaks the Yetzer Hara, that breaks the ego, is the learning of Hashem's Torah with a loud voice. Why is that? So in a very simple level, it's like this. Rav Nachman explains elsewhere that the Torah is the light of Hashem in potential. But in order to bring it out in your life, to reveal it within yourself and within the world, you need to actualize it. How do you actualize that hidden Torah? The answer is only through the mouth. Like it says in Tikkun Zohar, that the mouth is Malchut. Malchut is kingship or influence. And that is the place where you reveal what's hidden. When you speak out what you're learning, then it will crush your Yetzer Hara. If you simply just learn, though, those words are not going to touch your heart. There is a klipa around every Jew's heart. That klipa around each of our hearts is what's stopping us from experiencing this light of Hashem. That's all it is. It's that one klipa around the heart. What breaks that klipa is the light of Torah. How do you experience the light of Torah in a way that it breaks that klipa that surrounds our heart? Only by saying it with koach. That means with energy. That means enthusiastically. That means with a loud voice. With energy, like we're doing right now. This is called learning b'koach. This is what we're doing every night. Even if you don't realize it, every single time we do this, this is deeply affecting the foreskin of our heart. And even though you think it's not, that's only because the water that is dropped on the rock, which Rav Nachman is going to bring, that's the whole inner mystery of Moshe Rabbeinu and the rock that he was striking, and Hashem told him to speak to the rock. Don't strike the rock. You know what he was telling Moshe to teach all of us? Stop trying. You stop trying. Not stop trying, but you stop trying. You can't break the rock. I can break the rock. I made the Yetzer Hara stronger than you. We say this every night at Arvit, that he saves Yaakov from the one who's stronger than him. That cleap around your heart is right now more strong than your heart. It's stronger than your heart. So you need Hashem to break it. How do you have Hashem break it? Through his Torah, because he and the Torah are one. But how do you give Hashem the ability to break the cleap around the heart? Only when the Torah is revealed. That is through koach of your mouth. That means when you learn, you have to say it out loud. By the way, this is the reason why, the deeper reason why Rav Nachman says, turn my Torah into tefillah. This is the reason why Rav Natan wrote Likutey tefillot. This is the reason why it's the most powerful tool you have within your hibodedut, is to take what you learn of Rabbi Nachman's teachings and to turn it into your own prayer. Because what you're doing is you're taking the light of Hashem, which is manifesting itself through your Likutey Moharan in front of you, and you're turning that into your own prayer. When you do that, you are now manifesting that in your actual life. That is then penetrating into the foreskin of your heart every time you talk about it. And it breaks a little bit more every day, every day, every day, every day, until the rock breaks. Why did Moshe not get allowed into the land of Israel? We're going to speak more about this when we get to Torah Zion. Because it's such this, I mean, Torah Zion for me is like, I'll tell you the miracles I experienced in Torah Zion, but why wasn't Moshe allowed into the land? Rav Nachman explains explicitly in Likutey Moharan in Torah Zion that the land of Israel represents being able to accomplish everything you want simply through your mouth, by speaking it out. What happened when Moshe had the ability for the final step to take the Jews into the land of Israel? By talking to the rock. Meaning he was supposed to show the Jewish people, you can nullify the negativity in yourself simply by speaking to Hashem every day. Sounds familiar, huh? But what did Moshe do? Because the Jewish people were so anxious, because they were so amped up, because they were giving him such a difficult time, because Moshe took them out of the secular world and brought them to a desert and said, we can find Hashem here. And they're like, yeah, but what am I doing here? I left, now what? We left Mitzrayim, but now what? Talk to the rock. But he got too nervous, he got too overwhelmed, and he struck it. And water came that way. But then Moshe wasn't allowed into the land of Israel. Why? Because the whole point was for him to show us we don't need to strike the rock. We just need to talk to it. Rabbi Nachman is teaching us that. This is exactly what Rabbeinu is teaching us. And any person who does Hibodedut every single day and forces himself to beyond understanding, makes himself like the moon to this teaching, he will experience in a week, in a month, in a year, in a few years, he's not the same person. Why? Because this is the very big yesod. This is the very big chiddush. Everything you ever wanted to be is inside of you. You don't need to do anything to become that person. It's already there. You just need to get rid of everything that's not it. Does everyone understand what I'm saying? This is a very, very important thing I'm teaching you. The person you want to be, you don't need to develop it. You just need to find it inside of yourself. Now, lahavdil, I'm going to give you a metaphor, okay? But the only reason I'm giving it to you, it's very good to understand. There was a sculptor, his name was Michelangelo. And I believe it was in the 1800s. I forget exactly what year it was, actually. He was given a task to make a statue for Italy, for Rome, by the government. And he was the most famous sculptor at the time, and art is a very big part of Roman culture. And he was the most famous sculptor. It was a big task, and there was a lot of pressure on him. They gave him a lot of money to do this. And now it was his time to shine. What was the statue he was going to make, and how was he going to do it? So Michelangelo said, every day I kept walking by this rock. So I keep walking by this rock, and it's this big, gigantic rock. And everybody sees it, and nobody thinks anything about it. But I'm always thinking about this rock. Could I ever do anything with this rock? And eventually, when I got this task, I realized that is what I want to make the sculpture at. I want to use that rock that's so rugged, that's so undisciplined, that's so extreme, that's so broken. And I want to turn that into the statue. What was the statue we wanted to make? David. King David. The most famous statue in the entire world is David HaMelech, made by a non-Jew in Italy. What is David? He's the Nun. He's the Malchut. He's the ability to nullify himself completely and receive all the light of Hashem. Now listen to the chiddush that he says. How did I make David? How did I do this? Because he worked on it for 4 years, and when he finally revealed it to everybody, everybody was standing there in shock. They couldn't even speak because they never saw anything like this. And they asked him, how did you make David? And he said, you know, the truth is, I always had David in my mind. So what I did is I took this big rock, and every day I just took everything away that was not David. By the way, this is the best lahavdil analogy you'll ever hear in your life. It completely connects to every part of this teaching that we're saying. The rock is our heart. Inside of the rock is the you you've always wanted to be and your connection to Hashem. The whole way that you experience yourself is simply to take away everything that's not you. What's the key to doing that? Hibodedut. When you talk to Hashem every day and you follow Rabbeinu's advice every day to the best of your ability, you will keep withering away at that rock until there's nothing left except you. And then you're going to be happy. And then you're going to feel inner peace. Then you're going to feel life force. Then the whole world is going to need you. Any questions about tonight's lesson?
Yeah, I have a question. You said about the heart, right? There's a what would you say is around the heart?
A foreskin.
Foreskin. So it's to be circumcised, no?
Exactly.
So can you give a little insight into that? Because I don't understand. They're gonna take a knife. Is it gonna be a shock? Is it gonna be do you know any of from Rebbe Nachman or?
Yes, I know a little bit about this.
Okay.
Your heart is like an onion. Okay. You have many layers to that onion. Inside of that onion, you have you. You have the real you. That's what you've been
Right.
looking for since you were born, okay? Rabbi Nachman is teaching that by nullifying yourself every day, and specifically through Hibodedut, you will take away a layer every time. You take another layer, and another layer, and another layer, and another layer, until one day you're only left with your Yetzer Tov, just yourself. And when you have that, you'll have everything. Because that Yetzer Tov is the best vessel. It's the only vessel that can experience all the light of Hashem. That is called the circumcision of the heart. And when Mashiach comes, his main task is to circumcise the heart of all the Jewish people. Meaning teaching everybody bitul, how to nullify their ego so they can experience the light of Hashem. And this is why it's David's task.
Wow. Amen.
Because David is the Nun. Any other questions? Okay, I have some text here. It says, so every moment in a person's life is set in Shemaim at specific times. Yes! Everything is already set for you. This is a big yesod that you should really try and talk to Hashem about in your Hibodedut. Everything. That 7-Eleven cup that Benny just drank, that was predestined since the beginning of time. Now you can either just drink, or you can realize I am experiencing something which was planned since pre-creation. And then all of a sudden it's a very godly experience. It's a very deep experience. Someone just asked me, how would this apply to relationships with people that perhaps we don't get along with? Great. That's wonderful. That's a great question. Very practical, okay? Rav Nachman says, you need to make yourself, actually the Gemara says this, Rav Nachman just like hammers it home and we listen to him because his wisdom is so beautiful. You need to make yourself like a doormat. And nobody wants to hear that. And everybody's terrified of that. But it's the key to everything. Because the whole reason that we feel the need to have conflict is because we are asserting ourselves. Now, I know this may seem above our understanding, or this seems like too high of a level. It's not too high of a level. It's something that all of us can obtain. And in fact, the Gemara says very clearly, it's the key to even experiencing the Torah. If you ever notice, the Gemara says that you don't have Torah until you're married. That means that whatever you've learned so far, even though you are learning Torah, it's not Torah for you yet. Like in the first parak of Tehillim, it says that David HaMelech, he is meditating in the Torah of Hashem, and it becomes his Torah. Meaning there's two different things. There's to learn the Torah, and then there becomes your Torah. So the Gemara is saying it can never become your Torah until you're married. Why? Because your wife is going to nullify your ego. And until your ego is nullified, you're never actually experiencing the light of Hashem, because you're like Esav. Now I know that sounds harsh, but I'm the king. I was the king Esav, okay? And I wasn't a bad person. I'm a good person. I wanted good things for people. I cared about people. I wanted the best. But I didn't realize that my external self, that Rav Nachman says called Esav, it's the source of all destruction. Rav Nachman says when someone rebukes you, you should be quiet. You shouldn't say anything. You should realize that this is the greatest thing that could possibly happen to you. And then take that back to your Hibodedut and cry. Because you're going to say to yourself, yeah, but we know according to psychology, if you just hold in your emotions, then it's worse for you. That's true. But Rav Nachman is saying, don't hold it in forever. Have a time every day that you let it all out. That you talk to Hashem for an hour and you cry with Hashem. But when the person is rebuking you, just sit, relax, and say to yourself, Hashem, this is you. This is not this person. This is for the sake of humbling me. This is good for me. And the reason why it's doing that is because I'm asking Hashem, I want to be close to you. And you can't be close to Hashem if you have an ego. It's impossible. So, in fact, those opportunities when another person comes and he completely nullifies you, that's the best thing ever. However, we don't realize that because the world has taught us that's the worst thing possible. And especially in many cultures where they say it's not to be a man to be walked on. So you're in the worst trouble. Because in your efforts to be a man, according to the Torah, you're a woman. Because all you're looking to do is to receive. And the Torah is teaching you how to be a man. That doesn't mean to assert yourself. It actually means to be a giver. Rav Ginsburg says that when a person converts to Judaism, what's the conversion that's really taking place? He says to some extent, every convert is a female soul. It's a female soul. And when he converts, he becomes a male soul. How does that make sense? What if he's a man to begin with? The answer is, like the Tanya says, to be Jewish means to be completely selfless. To be not Jewish means to be full of self. So when a person converts to Judaism, he is accepting upon himself selflessness and therefore becoming a man.
So being a doormat is being a man?
Yeah.
Are you sure there's no like in between line where it's
No.
not used versus like?
No.
Yeah.
Now again, that doesn't mean keep it in. Do not keep it in. Then it's going to be really bad for you. Then your relationships are really going to go downhill. Take it, leave your room, leave everybody for a second and say, Hashem, I am very overwhelmed right now. I'm very hurt right now. I want desperately to respond. But I've done this so many times in my life for 20 years, for 25 years, for 30 years. This isn't working for me. Let me try what Rebbe Nachman says, okay? Let me just keep it, hold it, don't respond, wait till either later that day or the next day, go to the field and cry to Hashem. Say, Hashem, thank you for humbling me, but I'm really in a lot of pain. Please show me why you're doing this to me. Because I want to be close to you, and you're going to see the light. And eventually, when you really are humble, when you're truly humble, nobody's going to be walking over you. And this is the great paradox. Nobody's going to walk over you. The only reason everybody's walking over you is because you're not humble. The Torah teaches that as soon as you're humble, then everybody honors you. Why are you not being honored by the people around you? Because you're not humble yet. Now, if you think you're humble, you need to go back to your Bodhidut and say to yourself, am I really selfless? Even when I do something for my wife, is it because I want my wife to be happy? Or is it because I want her to then do me a favor after that? Now, this can be applied to anything. Like, for instance, Rav Arush gave this example. Your wife wakes you up in the middle of the night, says to her, honey, can you please go get me milk? But it's 3 a.m. What do you need milk right now for? And there's only one grocery store that has the kosher milk, and you're going to have to drive there. You're going to lose your parking spot in New York City. You might not get a parking spot, but I have to sleep, and I'm the one who supports the family. I'm the one who's going to work tomorrow. You're not working. You're home. So what's a person going to do? A person who thinks they're on a high level, they're going to go do their wife a favor. So the next day, they can say to their wife, you owe me. They may not say it explicitly, but subtly, they're feeling that tomorrow I'm going to be able to say, I did this one for you. Or maybe they're not even going to say that, but they're going to think to themselves, I did that. Now I hope tomorrow this person's going to do something for me. This is called not love. This is not called love. This is called self-love. Rav Arush says, you want to know if you really love your wife? Are you doing it just because she wants you to? Just because she wants you to. Not for any other reason. That's called love. That's completely selfless. You don't get anything from that. And in fact, once you do it for that reason, you get everything from that. Because you turned yourself into a moon, and then you're able to experience the light of the Ein Sof. See if there's a couple more questions here. Let me see if we can answer some of them. If you are not a morning person and you wake up in the worst mood, what are your couple ways to gain a mood and have enough energy to say Buddha with authenticity? That's a great question. I am the same situation. I have the worst mornings you could ever imagine, every morning. And what did I used to do when I had mornings like that? I would just lie in bed all day because I thought that that's how I was. Here we go again, another terrible day. However, I don't do that anymore. I get up and I do my best I can for a few hours to do whatever I can. I don't do Hibodedut in the morning, even though Rav Nachman suggests to. You should do it as early as possible, and I agree with him. You should. Not that I'm anyone, but I'm just saying you should. If you feel good in the morning, you should do it. But if you don't have koach and you don't have energy to do it in the morning, and you have more energy in the afternoon and you have time to go to the field in the afternoon, do it in the afternoon. Do it when you have the strength to do it, when you have the clarity to do it, when you have the permission to do it. Now, Rav Nachman saying lahatchila, the best case to do it is in the morning before everybody wakes up. It's true. But let's say Hashem has not given you the zchut yet to have that type of mornings, that you can do that. Okay, so you have to know when and where. Do it later. Do it when it gives you the best chance to give it your all. Okay, for me, right now, that means in the afternoon. That's not lachatchila what Rav Nachman says, but I'm sure Rav Nachman would agree with, based on my circumstances and my health, go do it in the afternoon. Okay? Another question here. I know every case is different, but there are people we know who feel that just being about them may bring us down or get us upset. Wouldn't it be better to distance themselves from them? Yes, it would be better. You should initially distance yourself from those people while you're working on this. However, ultimately, when you have withered away that rock and you have obtained a degree of selflessness, now you're going to be able to go back and to be in a relationship with those people, and it's not going to weigh on you like that. I know exactly what you're talking about. There's a reason why Hashem told Noah, you have to first go on a boat by yourself, and then you have to go back and recreate the world. Because this is for all time. There's no way around this. When a person wants to connect to this inner reality, first you have to go do it alone. And even though nobody's going to understand you, and you're going to get a lot of flack for it, and it's going to be a lot of pressure for you, you have to go alone first. Because if you're trying to do it and at the same time trying to convince everybody that you're sane and that it makes sense and it's good for you and they should do the same thing, you're done. That's not going to work, and you're going to experience tremendous grief while doing it. However, if you follow Rav Nachman's Eitzah and learn his Torah every day, then in a couple of years, you're going to be able to go back to your family and you're going to be a light for all of them, and they're going to appreciate you and they're going to respect you. And don't think people can't change. I know it looks like that because they never did, but they never did because we're not humble. I know that sounds too simple. I know that sounds hard to believe. I'm telling you right now, when you become the person that Hashem created you to become, the whole world is going to help you do what you need to do. That takes faith to believe that, but if you work at it every day, you will see it.
And the only way you're saying to do this is by doing Hibodedut. There is no other way.
I'm not saying that. Rav Nachman says that in Likutey Moharan. He says that the only way to experience Bitul, he says it, there is no other way except through Hibodedut. He says that explicitly.
Beautiful. Just blame it on the Rebbe. No, just that's the emes. Rabbeinu said so. So it's on the
What
wall.
else? I'm not anything. I'm just trying to give up.
You're beautiful. You are amazing. You are that rock that I don't know, Da Vinci carved.
I'm breaking every day.
Literally.
Yes. Literally.
David.
But that's really what it is. Rav Nachman says it explicitly, and I would say, when you think about that, you'd be like, yeah, but why would Rav Nachman be the only one who talks about it? Okay, I want to tell you something. Hibodedut doesn't just mean talking to Hashem. Hibodedut means to be alone. Now, when you're alone, the best thing to do is to talk to Hashem. Because of what we said, that's what penetrates the heart. But the main thing is actually to be alone for an hour a day. Now, you're going to say, why is Rav Nachman the only one who's saying that? And you're going to see everybody carrying around their book that's called Mesilat Yesharim. You go into any yeshiva and everybody's steiging in Mesilat Yesharim. The Ramchal's classic of Musar that they're learning every day. Go look at the very first step in Mesilat Yesharim. The first thing he says there is the key to being spiritual. The key to connecting to Hashem. The first thing you need to do before you can do anything else is you need to take time to yourself every day away from outside influences in society to contemplate your life. He says that Paro, the whole entire Yetzer Hara, which represents Paro, his whole thing is to keep you busy and in society. Because when you're in that place, you can't think clearly. So the Ramchal says, the first step to Kedusha, the first step to Tahara, the first step to anything that's good in your life is you need to take time to be alone every single day. The Ramchal says. Rav Nachman says explicitly that every great tzaddik that you ever heard of, he says in Likutey Moharan, any tzaddik who attained a level of true connection and closeness with Hashem, the people you read about in biographies, all of the tzaddikim that we revere and that we admire and that we cling to, Rav Nachman says not one of those people was able to obtain that through anything else except through their hibodedut. Now, why are they not saying that they're doing hibodedut? How about the Hafetz Chaim? He's like the quintessential Litbak, no? He's Ashkenazi. He's one of the greatest Ashkenazi poskim of all time. He also happened to be a Mekubal, and if you read his halakha, you'll see very clearly he is, even though nobody talks about it. However, we know the fact of the matter is, despite the fact that he doesn't talk about hibodedut, he did 2 hours of hibodedut every day of his life. That before mincha every single day, he used to go into a room in his house and talk to Hashem for 2 straight hours. By the way, this was the reason why on Yom Kippur every year, when he came to say sorry to Hashem, there's a story about him that he said, Hashem, I'm so sorry that for 7 minutes this year, I didn't do exactly what you wanted me to do. First of all, to be able to even say to yourself that for the rest of that year, I only did exactly what you wanted me to do at every moment. There was no bitul Torah at all. Bitul Torah means I never did anything besides what you wanted me to for whatever that was. That's 7 minutes, whatever his cheshbon was. How did he know how many seconds every day that he wasted? That he could come to Hashem at the end of the year and say, Hashem, I'm so sorry I wasted 7 minutes of your time. Because he did 2 hours of hibodedut a day. And because he was going over his day every single day, what did I do here? Where did I succeed here? Where did I struggle here? And then he had the cheshbon at the end of the year. Rav Nachman was not the only one who did hibodedut. It's very clear why are all of the Jewish tzaddikim in the Torah shepherds? Why are they all shepherds? Because they're alone in the field. Because that's the only way to connect to Hashem. And then they can go back into the city and they can lift them all up. But there's a reason they're shepherds. It's not just because they know how to lead. They know how to lead because they're alone with Hashem. David HaMelech knew how to lead because he was ostracized by his brothers, because he was oppressed and mitigated by his parents and by society. And as a result of that, he decided, I'm just going to go alone in the field and talk to Hashem. And as a result of that, he nullified his ego completely. And then Hashem said, you know what? You're the perfect person to lead our people. Why? How do you know how to lead everybody? Because you now have nothing of your own. So you're perfect. Rav Nachman says it, and I'm not blaming him. And just telling you what it is, and this has been my personal experience, and that doesn't mean much, but I'm just telling you, this is all I can give you. This is my experience. Hibodedut saved my life. The difference between me and a psych ward contemplating suicide and now teaching hundreds of people about Rebbe Nachman's Torah and being happy and giving my family life and supporting them financially and being a solid person and feeling good about myself is 1 hour of hibodedut every single day and never giving up on that hour. That's the only difference. That doesn't mean I'm not doing all the other things that Rav Nachman tells me to do. I am trying to do those things, and that is a huge help. However, the ability for me to do those things that he says to do is only possible by going back to my hibodedut every day and talking to Hashem about it. Hashem, I struggled here. Hashem, I fell here. Hashem, please help me here. If you don't do that every day, you're not going to have the koach, the strength, to keep working on yourself every day. You're just going to fall back into the rat race. And you're going to be miserable, and you're going to be sad, and you're going to be angry, and you're going to be confused. You're going to say, Hashem, why are you doing this to me? And the answer is, Hashem's not doing it to you. Go to the field.
The Kli
I love
Yakar-
you guys. Thank you so much. Benny, yes?
the Kli Yakar brings down why Hashem accepted Havel's offering as opposed to Cain, because Havel chose to live a life of Hidborudu and Cain didn't.
That's
And
right.
He took his sacrifice as opposed to Cain's. And,
Right. And notice also that when Hevel gave his sacrifice, he did it with happiness. And Cain did it sad. So what was the difference between them? That Hevel was doing Hipodadut and Cain wasn't. Really, that was the difference. They were not. Cain was a huge person. Cain was a huge person. Rabbi Akiva comes from the root of the soul of Cain. But he was sad. Why was he sad? Because he was busy with the world. He was busy trying to do and be what everybody else was, even though there was no one else besides them, but whatever that could have been. He was trying to obtain something. And Hevel was just being. And as a result of that, he was able to be happy when he gave it forth. And even after Hashem said, you can do tshuva, Cain. And he couldn't. He killed his brother instead. How many people do you know that are killing their brothers at work, trying to one-up them, trying to one-up their friends? That's also a form of murder. You know, according to halakha, you're not even allowed to set up a job in the same place as your friend, in the same field. Because that's cruel. Why are you doing that? The answer is that the non-Jewish world has completely infiltrated your mind and your heart. To be Jewish means to be selfless. That is the key to experiencing Hashem. Everybody have an amazing night. Tomorrow night is the class for women. Thursday night, last class of the week. Again, Likutey we're going to continue. Keep trying every day, even if you fall, even if you struggle. Just keep getting back up and doing it again. One day, you won't fall. The tzaddik falls down 7 times, and then he gets up. 7 times could be 1,000 times, but at some point, he just gets up. To be a tzaddik doesn't mean to be good at anything except to just keep getting back up. That's the whole chiddush of the tzaddik, that he never gave up. Not because he's the smartest, not because he's the most charismatic, not because he has the most resources, but because he continues to get up, now he's called a tzaddik. Every single one of us can also be a tzaddik, and Rebbe Nachman's mission is to do that for us. Just keep getting up, trust Rabbeinu, trust Hashem, and give it your best shot again tomorrow. You keep adding up those days, and one day you're going to wake up, and you're going to be up. Everybody have a great night.
Thank you.